Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Proven ABM Campaigns to Engage and Convert Your Target Audience. I'm Brian Anderson, News Editor at Demand Gen Report, and I'll be your moderator for this presentation. Thank you all for joining us today. I encourage all attendees to get social with us during and after today's presentation. Please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback using the hashtag bii17. You can connect with us using the @DG_report Twitter handle or reach out to me directly. My Twitter handle is @G3Brian, and our presenters can be reached at the handles that are listed here. Please feel free to share any questions or thoughts you have throughout the presentation. We're also hosting a special sweepstakes throughout the week-long series where attendees have a chance to win a free ticket to our annual B2B Marketing and Exchange in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. It's going to be taking place in February 2018. If you register for one BII webinar, you will automatically be entered for a chance to win. And if you're attending this session live, you've received a second entry. We'll be announcing winners each day of the series, so stay tuned. For those of you who may be new to Demand Gen Report, here's a quick overview. We're an online media company publishing daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a rich menu of additional resources. If you haven't done so already, join more than 45,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing to Demand Gen Report today. For today's presentation, we're using the On24 platform. During the presentation, you can access all the information you need from the platform toolbar. We encourage you to ask our presenters questions. To do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of the screen. Today's presentation is slated to run about 25 to 30 minutes with 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following the presentation. You can submit your questions using the Q&A widget at any time. Today's session is also being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review it or share with their colleagues. In addition to joining the conversation online and submitting your questions here, we're also welcome and encourage you to participate by letting us know how we're doing. In an effort to constantly improve the level of value we provide to our audience members here, we've put together a brief survey that will automatically launch once this webinar session ends. You can pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon in the taskbar on the bottom of your screen. You can see the icon circled here on the bottom of this slide. Before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this quick questionnaire. Doing so will help us better serve you in future series. Now I'm pleased to introduce our featured speaker for today, Andre Yee. Andre is the CEO of Triblio, and has numerous years of experience and an outstanding record in the software space. Most recently, he was the SVP of Product Development over at Eloqua and was responsible for product development and operations there. At Eloqua, he was part of the executive team responsible for leading Eloqua to its IPO and its acquisition by Oracle. Without further ado, I'll pass things over to you, Andre. Take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Before we get started, just a little more about myself. My name is Andre Yee. I'm the CEO of Triblio, and I thought instead of the typical corporate headshot, here's a photo of my wife and I sitting by the beach. It's what I love to do. I also love food. If you follow me on Instagram, all you'll get is a feed of food photos, nothing else. No political commentary, no kids, no marketing insights. Just food pics, right? But more relevant to this webinar, I was formerly Senior VP of Product Development for Eloqua. We had a great run, had a successful IPO. We sold to Oracle. And after that, I started Triblio to address what I perceive to be the account-based marketing need. Triblio is an ABM execution platform compatible with marketing automation, and our customers have literally run hundreds of successful campaigns on our platform. And what I'd like to do today is share 3 campaign examples that can help you engage and convert your target audience. Now, before we jump into the specifics of those campaigns, let's define the problem. As I always like to remind our team internally, no one wakes up with an ABM problem. But instead, marketers have business problems that we have to deal with, right? For instance, marketers want more quality leads. We want better measurability. And most of all, you want to impact revenue, right? You're under pressure all the time to make a difference in revenue. And so that's really what you want. Well, today, our current solution involves using marketing automation, right? Whether it's Eloqua or Marketo or Pardot, marketing automation systems like these are what we use to drive revenue. And they've been successful. In fact, 42% of B2B companies use marketing automation today. And when you interview CMOs, the reason for using marketing automation is simply to grow revenue. And that's good. And marketing automation is not incorrect. It's just, in my opinion, insufficient. The point I'm going to make is that you're going to need to add account-based marketing to the mix. Now, what came with marketing automation was the B2B funnel, right? Inquiries that you nurture and qualify to deliver MQLs to sales that converted to SALs and then eventually opportunity in the pipeline. And the B2B funnel gave us a lead qualification methodology. It gave us better and basic measurability. And it also offered a deliverable for sales, marketing deliverable for sales, which is essentially the MQL. And the concept of the funnel is simple enough, right? If you want more closed-won business, simply add more inquiries to the top of the funnel. But as anyone who's done this knows, the reality isn't quite as simple. More inquiries doesn't always mean more revenue. Why? Why is that? Well, 64% of MQLs don't convert to SALs. The MQL rejection rate by sales is really at an all-time high. And very often those MQLs are rejected for various reasons, most notably because they're wrong accounts, right? You're delivering MQLs to your sales team, but your sales team says, look, this lead, this MQL is actually from an account that is less than 50 employees, and we target companies more than 50 employees. Right? So one problem is that you might be delivering the wrong account profile. The other is that you might not have enough stakeholders. Right? You're simply delivering a single MQL, and for a lot of sales organizations, they want multiple stakeholders before they're willing to engage the account. And then finally, you have data inaccuracies that also play into it. Whatever the reason, 64% of MQLs don't convert to SALs, and that's a leading problem. The second challenge is declining engagement with email. You know, there are some stats here, but I'll just read off a couple. 97% of email recipients don't click on links. 78% of emails are never opened. And as you know, marketing automation today, whether you're using Eloqua or Marketo or Pardot, is fundamentally email-centric. And email engagement has declined and continues to decline. And so the challenge is, how do you deliver more revenue through an email channel in the face of declining engagement with email? But the third challenge is perhaps the most significant. Buyer behavior has changed and continues to change. And most notably, buyers are delaying hand raise, meaning buyers are disinclined to fill out forms. If you think of the initial point of interest and the final point of purchase, the initial contact registration happens somewhere around 60 to 80% through the buyer journey. And this part where we're doing lead nurturing and lead qualification using Eloqua, Marketo, or HubSpot, that's this little piece all the way to the right. Marketing automation has led to a change in buyer behavior. Buyers are delaying form fills because they know that when they fill out a form, they're going to get spammed or they're going to get called. And so at Triblio, we actually looked into this, and we did some primary research around this. And one of the things we discovered in our research is that almost half of all prospects engage 90 days or more prior to form registrations. We have data that we've analyzed from customers that have opted into this study, and it's surprising in some sense that buyers are engaging so much earlier than when they actually fill out forms. What you're finding out is that buyer behavior has significantly changed over the last 10 years. Where does this leave us? Where does this leave you? Well, you're left with sales saying, these leads suck. You're under more pressure on a yearly basis to deliver more and more with either the same or fewer resources. And you're under constant scrutiny to prove the value of your campaigns, right? And that's no fun. But what if there was a different way to approach this? What if you could focus on accounts that sales wants? Instead of just selecting low quality, high volume leads, what if you start by focusing on the accounts that you know you're successful with or that sales wants to go after? What if you could reach the entire buying group instead of just focusing on one or two contacts in your email list? And then finally, instead of passively waiting for the prospect to fill out a form, what if you could activate sales closer to the point of interest? What if you could score the account visitor and actually activate your sales team at the right time with the right insights? That's what account-based marketing offers you. From our perspective, account-based marketing is about unifying inbound and outbound marketing channels with sales plays to grow revenue with your in-target accounts. Let's jump into some of these customer examples that I mentioned earlier. Let's talk about the first example. The first example is about getting leads in target account segments. And I'm going to tell you about one of our clients called Fiscal Note. Now, Fiscal Note sells AI-driven government relations SaaS platform. They have a repository of unstructured public data on legislation, like voting records on specific bills, who voted for what, and they're all about helping government relations teams determine the likelihood of a particular bill passing, so that the GR team can figure out who to lobby. They can get latest alerts on the latest developments on particular bills. And this has actually implications across different industry sectors that do a lot of lobbying. For instance, sectors like healthcare, high-tech, education, transportation. They also have a very strong representation among legislators. So there's with legislators, the use case is slightly different. Their platform is used to help legislators sort of figure out how to build support for particular issues to get a bill passed. Now, the challenge for Fiscal Note was really about how do you engage and convert more leads in target accounts, given that they have these various industry verticals. And so they focus on 6 industry verticals, among them government, healthcare, high-tech, education, and transportation. And the value proposition is actually quite different by industry. So they use Triblio to sort of enable a verticalized pursuit strategy for their target accounts. And through our platform, they executed this vertical industry strategy by delivering industry-specific content experience and CTAs to target these accounts on the website. But not only did they do that, they were also able to target existing accounts with the right upsell opportunity. And the results? Well, the results were quite outstanding, right? This vertical industry campaign delivered outstanding results. For example, they saw tech prospects improve conversion by 220%, and the federal prospects saw even better results with a 570% conversion rate. Now, what's the big takeaway in this story? Is it that segmentation works? No. You're doing segmentation today. You're probably doing it with email. But what Fiscal Note is doing is a little different, right? They're doing segmentation at the top of the funnel for accounts that haven't opted in. They're anonymous accounts. And so the takeaway is this: leveraging anonymous identification of accounts for personalization is key to engaging and converting leads for target accounts. Now let's talk about the next client, Clarabridge. Clarabridge is a customer experience management software vendor, and they sell both to the enterprise and SMBs. Their particular challenge was in the enterprise sector. Clarabridge was generating lots of MQLs, but there was a lack of alignment with sales. And what resulted was really a poor rate of conversion to pipeline opportunities. And subsequently, one of the problems for marketing is that marketing couldn't directly drive revenue. And that became a problem. So Clarabridge used Triblio to develop an ABM approach that would convert these leads to revenue. And the approach they took was simply this. They built mid to late stage funnel integrated campaigns focusing on three industry verticals. These were three verticals that they had traction in and that sales had particular focus in, right? So the verticals they chose were healthcare, retail, banking. And they put an integrated campaign together that included a combination of sales plays for the sales team to deliver, email campaigns, but also messaging and content aligned on all their web properties, right, and notably on their corporate website. And what out of this integrated campaign was outstanding results. This integrated campaign influenced $24 million in revenue in the first 3 months. And they also saw a 3x lift from inquiry to close won deals, right? The takeaway here is interesting. The takeaway here is that if you want to affect MQL to SAL conversion, you need to reinforce content and messaging through multiple channels. In this particular case, doing it both through a combination of sales, the sales team as a communication channel, the email channel, as well as the web channel through their corporate website. Now, finally, I want to come to the third and maybe even the sort of the best example of all. Plex is an amazing software company. They're focused on disrupting the manufacturing industry with new ERP technology. And I think this is really, their example is particularly pertinent because I think many of the issues they face are increasingly issues that are not just pertinent to their particular sector, but is increasingly becoming common to B2B marketers. And so what I mean by that is selling to the manufacturing industry is actually in some ways challenging. You have particularly long sales cycles. You have delayed hand raises or really very low response rates for email hand raises and form fills. And strategically, what Plex realized they had to do was to get to their prospects early and often. Since the sales cycles are long, they needed to get directly to the prospects early and spend time educating. In essence, how do you reach and engage your buyer early, and how do you involve sales at exactly the right time with the right insights, right? And especially so when the in-target buyer behavior is disinclined to opt in with a form registration. That's the challenge that Plex faced. And so what they did was they actually used Triblio to develop highly personalized integrated ad campaigns and web experiences tailored to various types of manufacturers that have different regulatory environments and that have different requirements as a result. Let me give you a couple examples of how fine-grained this is. For instance, with a food manufacturer, the ERP system needs to provide traceability. So traceability is a big issue, right? Traceability for the sourcing of ingredients all the way through distribution. So in the unfortunate and unlikely event of food recall, you can trace the problem. You know exactly which defective shipments to pull back. It's all part of the regulatory requirement that the FDA expects. But if you're one of the Plex customers or target audience that are focused on manufacturing auto parts, you have a different set of requirements that the NTSB will impose. So in essence, what Plex did was by showing highly specific expertise to anonymous account visitors based on the type of manufacturer they represent, Plex was able to build engagement early in the buying cycle from their target accounts. And additionally, using Trivial's sales insight tools, they were able to detect interest from visiting in-target manufacturing companies. They were able to provide insights to the sales team on each of the target accounts that visited, like, for instance, when did they visit, how many unique visitors, what content drew their attention, and what content did they spend the most time with. Information like that is very pertinent to sort of sales follow-up. And as a result, they saw 39% growth in web visits from target accounts, driven by these personalized ad campaigns. Now, what's interesting is that during that time, overall traffic during the time of this particular campaign actually went down, but the in-target traffic went up by 39%. Right? That's the benefit of using an ABM strategy for reaching and targeting your accounts. Now, because Plex can detect initial interest by the target account, even if they don't fill out forms, Plex was able to reach out proactively via their sales team to begin the education process. And that resulted in 2.8x growth from an inquiry to MQL conversion rate. The lesson here, I think, is twofold. First, if you have target accounts that are challenging to reach, and I think almost every business has some account segment that they consider difficult to reach, account-based display advertising is a reliable way to reach the right buyer in the right accounts. And this works consistently. It's proven to work consistently. In fact, most of our customers, when they apply account-based advertising and reaching accounts, will see somewhere between a 30 to 50% growth in web visits from these target accounts. Second, if you have a need to educate your buyer early, then waiting till they fill out a form, I think, is too slow in today's economy. You need to be educating early and often, which often means being able to detect their initial interest, score that interest, personalize their on-site content experience, and then based on scoring their activity, activate your sales team at the right time with the right insights. Now the question is, how do you get started with all of this? Great that it worked for Plex and Clarabridge, but what do you have to do? What are some of the basic steps you have to take to get started? Well, I usually like to reference these 4 steps on your ABM journey. And I'd like to walk through them now just as a matter of just reference. First, you want to benchmark engagement. Now that's interesting. It might be interesting to some of you because you've probably heard if you want to start with ABM, start by defining or doing your account list segmentation. But in fact, we found consistently that the first thing that successful clients do is they benchmark their current engagement. And they find out which accounts are actually engaging with you, right? Are there specific industry verticals that you're getting better resonance with? How engaged are these accounts? And in fact, is there a target segment that you're interested in, but they're not even coming and engaging with you at all? You need to take a benchmark of your current account engagement to get level set. Then secondly, based on that information, you want to start to define your target account list. You want to segment your target accounts. And you want to do that typically by either A, the value of the account, which very often will correspond to the level of investment that you're going to apply to reach and engage and convert that account segment. The second thing you might want to consider in sort of segmenting an account is, does this account segment, does this group of accounts require a different buying experience? The simple example is just, enterprise accounts, right? If you're selling mostly to SMBs and you have enterprise, you want to go after a set of enterprise accounts, you likely don't want them to have the same sales and buying experience as your typical SMB account. And then the third sort of delineation is that might factor into your segmentation is there a different message that you want to deliver to that particular account segment that differs from a different segment, right? So segment your target accounts, do it by value of account, buying experience, and sort of the message. And then the third step is designing campaigns to reach and engage your accounts. Reach these buying groups with messaging and content that will drive progression from one stage to the other. And the important thing here to remember is that you can't just simply do it on one single channel. You need to embark on a multi-channel strategy that reinforces that message across these different channels, right? But you want to reach and engage these account visitors. And then finally, the fourth step is you want to activate sales at the right time. So as you reach and engage these account visitors, you're also scoring the account engagement. You're scoring each time a visitor from that account will interact with your content. And as you do that at the right time, you want to be able to activate sales and coordinate a handoff point and deliver not just a set of accounts for sales to follow up with, but ideally deliver a set of insights that will help warm up the follow-up. So as I mentioned before, it would be information like how many visitors have come to the site, what's the frequency and recency of their visit, what kind of content is particularly interesting to them, and other information like that.
Thank you, Andre, for all the great insights during the presentation today. It was great to learn how unifying inbound and outbound marketing efforts can, position sales to grow revenue by targeting those ideal accounts. And it looks like it sparked a lot of great questions. But before we get to those, I'd like to remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today. You can do so by clicking the survey icon, which can be seen circled here on the bottom of your screen. You can open that at any time and take it. You may also wait till the end, until the close of the session, at which time the survey will pop up automatically at the launch. So now let's get on to those questions. Okay, we got some good questions here. The first one is from Nick. Nick is asking, is ABM a replacement for marketing automation, or is it an add-on?
That's a great question, and I probably should have sort of made a bigger point of that in my presentation. But ABM platforms, ABM solutions are really an add-on. They're synergistic with marketing automation, right? Marketing automation is typically email-focused, and they're also leads-based focused. Most ABM platforms cover other channels like website or your sales channel or your ad channel, and they're not a replacement for marketing automation. Now, I can't speak for the other ABM platforms, but with Triblio, we actually integrate with all the major marketing automation systems as well as Salesforce CRM. So that's what you're sort of looking for, is that integration with the rest of your other marketing platforms.
Great insights. When it comes to the second question is from Ryan. He's asking, how do I move from the traditional lead-based demand gen to a more account-based model?
Yeah, that's a great question by Ryan. I think that's what a lot of people are trying to figure out, right? The challenge is, do I rip up all my leads-based sort of demand gen programs and just start all over again, or is there a smoother transition? And it's certainly a longer discussion, but I'll just provide a sort of concise answer. I think the short answer is that's the reason you want to start by benchmarking your current engagement, as I mentioned in the presentation earlier. First start by benchmarking and get an understanding of the accounts that are engaging with you, the different account segments that are engaging, and then determine if there's a particular account segment that makes sense based on the criteria we talked about. Is there a segment that you want to target and sort of carve out of your regular demand gen because because they have a different revenue potential. It's an enterprise sector, or there's a different distinct message that you want to carve out that might be applicable to a particular vertical industry, for instance. But you want to determine if there's an account segment that you want to carve out and focus on, and you want to do that without ripping up the rest of your demand gen strategy, and just let that keep going, but layer on top of that sort of an ABM program focused on a particular set of accounts or account segments.
That makes sense. Great. Thank you. The next question we have is from Anna. Anna is asking, what are a couple criteria, implementation criteria for selecting like an ABM platform? What type of things should someone looking for this type of a solution be looking into and focusing on at first?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Obviously there's lots of different criteria, but I think three that come to mind that I consider really important is first, I think the ability to identify anonymous account activity, because I think that speaks to the change in buyer behavior that I covered earlier when we were talking about ABM. Because I think part of what shifts the focus to account-based marketing is the shift in buyer behavior, the disinclination of the buyer to fill out forms, because over the last 10 years we've trained them not to fill out forms. Right? As they delay that, right, the impetus shifts back on the marketer to figure out how do I sort of engage the buyer closer to the initial point of interest, since the form fill represents a very late point in sort of the buyer journey. So the first is simply an ability to identify anonymous accounts. And then the second thing that comes to mind is unless you're really into doing all the plumbing to integrate point solutions, I think you want to find support for multiple channels in a single platform, right? So ideally find something that can support ads and website personalization and account scoring and integration and sales. You want to do that all in a single platform if possible. Now, some people prefer best of breed, and then they want to piece it together. That's fine, but I think for most folks, finding a single solution is really what you're looking for. And then the third thing is something we already covered, but make sure that it integrates with the rest of your sales and marketing ecosystem. So by that, most notably, make sure that it integrates. There's a meaningful integration point with your marketing automation, as well as with your CRM platform. And I think that's mostly what I think. Those are certainly three most important things you should keep in mind when you're selecting an ABM platform.
Great. Unfortunately, it looks like that's all the time we have for questions. However, we'll be sure to follow up with any of our attendees here that had a question that went unanswered. Thanks again to Triblio's Andre Yi for such a great presentation, and I want to thank all the attendees that were able to take the time to join us today. Be sure to check out the rest of the sessions taking place throughout the rest of the week. There's a lot of great stuff coming up. And a reminder that today's webinar is available on demand, so we're going to be sharing a link with you, and you'll be able to access it at any time and share it with your peers and colleagues as well. So thanks again for your time, and have a great rest of the day.